Well, hello. This is Tessa Jones coming to you with another inspirational message along with a biblical passage. And before I start, as you know, this is my channel, Life After Divorce. Now, before I get into it, what I would like to say is go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe. Come along this journey with me as I unpack my experiences, my lessons in marriage and after divorce. Now, I'm going to woo-saw right now because as you can see by the title, Married Times 3, I'm shedding some light on myself and becoming vulnerable for you. Yes, you see it right. Marriage times 3. I have been married 3 times. And with that being said, I'm going to jump right in and read the biblical passages. So I'm going to read from the King James Version of St. John's. It's going to be chapter 8, 1 through 10. But as you can see, I just highlighted verse 7. So you'll see. So let me go ahead and get going here. So Jesus went unto the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning he came again into the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought unto him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they said unto him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down, and with his finger wrote on the ground, as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and wrote on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the women standing in the midst. When Jesus had lifted him up himself, and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those that accuse you? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. What a beautiful message. What a absolute beautiful message. So I say that because for any of you that are like myself, who have been married once, twice, 3 times, I know for me, many years I blamed myself and even questioned my worth. I felt shame that, I had these failed marriages. But you know what? When I began to surrender my worries, my shame, my hurts to God, well, something amazing came out of that. I forgave myself. You see, God already had forgiven me once I repented, and although for some of, I have to say with quotation marks with my fingers, religious folks, before you judge, I did have biblical grounds for divorce. And God freed me from the critical and judgmental spirit that was in the church, but also I inflicted on myself. So for you all that, maybe feeling the same way I did, don't beat yourself up. Don't feel shame. But what I do say is through prayer, also get counseling, because I got counseling myself and that was very helpful. But you want to examine the reasons for the end of your marriages. Make sure you're looking at what you have or have not done that contributed to the end of the relationships. For me, as I share more about myself, for me growing up, I had no examples of healthy relationships, let alone healthy marriages. I also had some trauma, was carrying around from childhood that caused a lot of my suspicion, mistrust, and even self-loathing, low self-esteem for the things that happened to me. I want to say if you have had some childhood trauma that you're dealing with, please take the necessary steps to get help. It is a slow process and it does not happen overnight. And until you can get that little girl that little boy inside healed, you will keep perpetuating the same communication, the same coping tactics that you have used since childhood. And if you go into another relationship, I dare to say that it might be just like the last. I know for me, I would give and give and give and get little in return. And the reason that was like that, because as a child, people took a lot from me. Not one child should, I will just say this, not one child should have their innocence stolen just to play jacks or kickball or to be watched by someone older than you. And I grew up, became an adult, and once I kept giving and wouldn't speak up just to try to please the other person, that they would stay, I would resent myself and them. Once I got to this point, that little girl would say, "Let's leave," and I would run for the border. I want to share something else, just thinking about sharing to equate with my adulthood. One particular time in my third marriage, we had a disagreement, and I believe it was around a holiday, and I was so upset. Things were already escalating and pretty tense. So we ate, he got fed a good meal, fell fast asleep. I packed my bag and left, and I just drove, and I found myself in the dark in the back roads and hills of North Carolina. Oh my goodness, I was so afraid. And I set aside my pride, called him, and he was still asleep. And he was like, "Where are you at?" And I told him. But what hit me was he wasn't loud or angry. He was kind, and we just talked. And I turned around and drove back home. And after, we joked about it for years. But as you can see, that was my coping mechanism as a child and then as an adult. And even today, I still struggle with this, but it is definitely a work in progress. Now, a little side note here. That doesn't mean if you're being emotionally or physically abused, you shouldn't run for the border. You need to leave and make yourself safe. If someone is treating you with contempt and disrespect, and you may have to remove yourself from the environment, especially if you're not married to the person, you're just dating or considering dating, and you're being in that kind of situation, you may need to remove yourself until cool heads can prevail. So anyway, I really feel led to continue this particular topic. So I will be following up with another message on this. So do stay tuned. Also, again, please ponder on what was said. If it hits home for some of you, get the counseling that you need. Do the work. Do your soul searching. And let that little girl or little boy in you heal so that we can become healthy and whole adults, so that the next relationship we go in will definitely be our last. And until death do us part. In a good way, take care until next time.